Yeah, well, that's why we're going to talk about it, all right? Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. Jeep Apel here with Catherine Apel from grApelations, and today we're going to talk to you about storing and aging wine. A lot of questions we hear are about, hey, if I buy a bottle of wine, how do I keep it? Well, very simply, if you're going to consume it within the next 6 months, you can just stick it on your counter in the kitchen. It'll be fine. You can even set it upright like this. It'll be just fine. The thing you want to avoid though is heat. So definitely don't put it on top of your refrigerator. Don't leave it in the car on a hot day because that is going to damage your wine. Now, if you're going to try and save that wine for more than 6 months or even age it, it's important that you store the wine on its side. And that's because the cork is very porous, and if you keep it this way, it'll stay in contact with the liquid and it'll stay expanded, keeping an airtight seal. If you keep it like this, eventually your cork will dry out and your wine will get ruined. One note about storing on its side, some wines are made with a synthetic cork. And if you have a synthetic cork, then it doesn't matter if it's stored this way or this way because that cork is never going to fall apart. So you're fine there. The ideal setting for a wine is like a cellar. So something that's dark and cool in the temperature range of 55 to 65 degrees. If you want to keep your wine in your refrigerator at home, that's just fine, because being too cold will not hurt your wine, but too hot will. Just remember that if you're keeping it in your fridge, it's probably at about 38 degrees, and when you're serving it, you want your white wines in the 40s, around 45 degrees, and then your red wines are really nice if you get them around 65 degrees. So if you got a white wine in the fridge, take it out, let it sit for 15 minutes, then serve it. Isn't that right? What are you saying? Oh. And then Catherine says if you've got a red wine, then leave it out of the fridge for an hour. Another little trick is if you've got a red wine and you're keeping it at room temperature, stick it in your fridge for about 15 minutes before serving it. And that's going to get it down to that ideal 65 degrees. Now, once you open your bottle of wine, it's good to try and drink it within 3 days. But really, you can drink it as long as it tastes good to you. It's not going to hurt you. But wine will be turning into vinegar. So try and consume it within 3 days. If you don't, no problem. Use that wine for cooking. And heck, if it does turn to vinegar, make a vinaigrette. But just don't waste the wine. Bless you. If you don't plan on drinking your wine the same day that you open it, put the cork back in it, or better yet, get an airtight stopper and put it in the fridge. And that will slow down the process of wine turning into vinegar. There is that saying that, fine wine gets better with age. And that kind of turns into a myth or a perception that all wines get better with age. And that's really not the truth. Most wines are being put on the market at the time the producer wants you to consume them. It's the producer is doing all the aging for you. They don't want to sell you an investment. They want to sell you something that you can buy and enjoy right away. So if you've got like a Cabernet Sauvignon, that's something you can push like 8 years. A Pinot Noir, you want to try and drink it within 5 years of that vintage date. If you've got a Petite Syrah, that's something that can go about 10 years. Now, why can these wines go different times? It's all about tannin, alcohol, and acidity. So wines that are high in tannin, high in alcohol, and high in acidity will age longer. So that's why a Pinot Noir with very little tannin will not age as long as a Petite Syrah that's very high in tannin. Nebbiolo from the Piedmont region of Italy. Traditionally, those are wines that would age 25 years. So, it is a little lighter skinned, so the color of the wine is a little lighter, but it's so high in tannin that that's something you can really age. And Sagratino, that's one that now they usually just blend small percentages into other wines, but if you had a wine that was full on, then you could age that for 20 years or more. And again, because it's so high tannin. Now, it's good to try and drink your white wines within about 2 years, because those are usually fresh and crisp. But that doesn't mean you can't age white wines. There are wines out there from France, from Germany, and Australia, and these are Riesling, Sauvignon Blancs, and they are very high in acid, and those can be aged for a long time. And there's also a lot of Greek white wines that'll age very well. And that's kind of nice because you have these young wines that are very acidic, but if you age them, then they turn golden and they take on these kind of golden raisin notes and then still have that bite of acidity, and it makes for a really great drinking experience. So if you're looking to age your wines, look for the ones that are high in alcohol, high in tannin, high in acid. And as they're aging, really the only way to know if it's good is to open it up and try it out. A lot of times, some blog writer or magazine writer will say, hey, this is the year for X wine. And people go crazy and the price goes way up. But, if you want to try aging a wine, buy a few bottles. Wait 6 months or a year, taste one, and then, wait more. So as the wine ages, it starts out with really bright, tart fruit flavors. But as it's aging, it's going to take on more dried fruit, oxygenated flavors. Bless you, Catherine. But eventually, your wine is going to hit a plateau, and it'll have a period where it has kind of hit its prime, and it won't change that much, and you need to enjoy it then. Because after that, it's going to fall off, and the flavor just won't be there. It might take on odd smells, and it's just really not a good experience. So, it's good to buy wines and enjoy them. Lefty has joined us now for a closing note. Get your wine and share it with the people you love and enjoy the moment. Because if you wait too long, you're going to miss it. And that's life, isn't it? I'm grApel. This is Catherine Apel from grApelations. We will see you next time.